Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig. I am presiding along the beautiful mangroves of South Florida. It's a nice sunny day, and I know it's probably warm than the rest of the country. Well, sorry about that, folks. To all my Yankees and brothers and sisters who are in the cold, the snow, and all that, bear with it. Hang in there. I love you. Remember. And today I'm gonna be narrating an article that was published by the Miami Herald, which was written by Charles Rabin, posted Tuesday, February 18th, 2014, under gun laws. Ooh, that sounds really fascinating. It's entitled Miami-Dade Mayors To Gunmakers, Disclose Staff Training Techniques and Trafficker Weapon Sales. I'll begin now. An advocacy group is calling for tougher standards for gun companies who do business with cities in Miami-Dade County. But the idea is running into resistance from state lawmakers and the gun lobby. Unfortunately, they forgot individuals like myself. Proceed. A group of Miami-Dade mayors, some of them gun owners, all taking a politically risky stance, launched an effort Tuesday to try and sidestep state firearms laws by forcing gun distributors and manufacturers to disclose training techniques and methods used to keep firearms out of the hands of indicted traffickers. The group pledged support to a nonprofit called Armed with Ethics, which is pushing for laws in cities throughout Miami-Dade that would force gun sellers to disclose if they train their staff out straw buyers and admit if indicted traffickers buy their weapons. The initiative is bound to be a tough sell in Florida, a gun rights favoring state with a controversial stand your ground law and other laws that allow firearms in public parks and homeowners to build firing ranges in their backyards. It isn't about trying to infringe on everyone's right to bear arms, said Miami Gardens Mayor Oliver Gilbert. It's about telling us what you're doing and trying to keep our children safe. Welcome to 1984. Tuesday's announcement sparked an immediate backlash from the gun lobby and Tallahassee lawmakers who advocate those laws. Only federal and state governments, they say, can get gun standards because of firearms preemption law. Firearms preemption law says only state and federal lawmakers can make gun laws, and the local municipalities cannot toughen them. Well, I consider that more of a contradiction or double standard in good faith. Isn't that regulating dealers to make them comfort the standards before doing business? Asked National Rifle Association lobbyist Marion Hammer. It's regulation by fiat. It is what it is. Is what it is, of course. Local governments may not adopt ordinances dealing with firearms or ammunition. More than 40 states have preemption laws which blocks municipalities from creating gun laws. Florida, though, is particularly severe. Local elected leaders who knowingly pass gun laws can be fined up to $5,000, sued, and can be tossed from office by the governor. Passing laws that could interfere with the sales of weapons and rights of citizens to own them has proved elusive throughout the nation over the years. Never more than in recent years, where even after Sandy Hook Elementary Massacre and the shooting of Trayvon Martin in Florida couldn't shake lawmakers enough to pass gun control bills. Floridians aren't even required to get a permit to purchase or own a handgun. Still, supporters of the change cite an exemption of the preemption law that allow local governments to create rules for guns that are used by law enforcement. It doesn't regulate anything, says Casey Woods, a former Miami Herald reporter and founder of the nonprofit Armed with Ethics, which is pushing the plan. It just asks them for information on what they are doing. Yeah, so could I tell you when you're going to have sex with your boyfriend or husband? Casey Woods? Or your lover? Doesn't matter. Go on here. On Tuesday, Woods spoke of the initiative and took questions at the Paragon Theaters in Coconut Grove's Cocoa Walk, surrounded by a handful of police directors and mayors during a hour-long news conference. In attendance were Miami Mayor Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez and his police director J.D. Patterson, Coral Gables Mayor Jim Kaysen, and County Commissioner Audrey Edmondson. Also were there, along with Gilbert from Miami Gardens. Woods explained the initiative, then showed a brief black and white video with statements from other mayors. Woo! I've seen the video and I am not aroused. Proceed. When it comes to gun violence, we haven't done enough, Woods says. If we act collectively, it has tremendous power. She proposed a two-pronged attack to make Miami-Dade County's streets safer. The first has been undertaken, getting 13 municipalities and the county to initially support the plan. Now comes the hard part, getting all those municipalities and others to pass laws that would require distributors and manufacturers who bid on weapon sales locally to disclose who they sell guns to, and if their staff is properly trained to detect straw buyers who often front gun sales. Specifically, Woods Group wants cities to force manufacturers to disclose what measures they take to keep weapons away from children, criminals, and those with mental illness. They also want them to reveal if they halt sales to indict gun dealers. To distributors bidding on gun contracts, any bill will require disclosing daily or quarterly audits if firearms are stored safely and measures in place to detect firearms used in crime. Miami-Dade paid a distributor who sells Glock handguns more than $700,000 in his last weapons buy in 2010. Woods says, though, county officials couldn't confirm that Tuesday. When guns wind up in the hands of criminals, tragedy occurs, says Scott Massington, a major in Coral Gables and the president of the Miami-Dade County of Chief of Police. Miami-Dade's Jimenez said the effort is not aimed at rights of law-abiding citizens to have firearms, it's to prevent guns from falling into the hands of criminals. Armed with Ethics also showed an effective 4-minute black and white video of several mayors advocating stronger gun control. South Miami Mayor Philip Straughter noted city leaders could be fined for passing laws that don't allow firearms in any in-city parks or city hall. I think it's important that we raise our voices, that our voices are louder than the gunshot we heard most every day in our community, Miami Mayor Thomas Relegado said in the video. One person in attendance Tuesday compared the fight likely to come after the early days of the county's Equal Rights Amendment discussion, which was filled with vitriol and heated debate. The mayor said now, like back then, many elected leaders in support of change are likely to sit quietly in fear of losing constituents and contributions. I can't blame them. State Representative Dennis Baxley, Republican from Ocala, who sponsored Florida's controversial 2005 Stand Your Ground law, which allows deadly force in defense of a perceived threat, said Miami-Dade cities should expect very high scrutiny if they go along with the Armed Ethics Plan. Any local governments are planning to need some evaluation in relation to the preemption law, said Baxley said. I think we made that very clear in the legislation passed. Well, I do remember the city of South Miami try to do the whole lock your guns, like have those little gun locks on your trigger locks on your handguns, and they passed it in the city and they got it backfired by the state. They said you can't do that. And I remember with the late Aaron Zellman, the JPFO, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, had an actual t-shirt goes, trigger locks, rapists approve. And I'd like to say I have to really laugh respectfully, because this is nothing more than the same scenario in a different package. And I did a little rant on Facebook with the Miami Herald on this, and I like when he says, do you agree with the mayors? Well, actually, hell no. And this is what my little intake says, my view, my comments to be exact. First is to start abolish the drug war. Plus, focusing on just gun violence rather than violent crime is technically biased. Furthermore, the citizens are overall the first line of defense, and the police aren't obligated on protecting an individual. Look up Wong versus City of Miami, and I'd like to tell all my viewers, look at, or listeners, observe, engine search the Florida statutes, look up sovereign immunity. It's very similar. It's pretty complex, but you know what? Technically, the police aren't obligated to protect you as an individual. I will proceed with my little rant here on Facebook. With all due respect and in good faith, what are the horrific events in Columbine, Sandy Hook, Aurora Theater, Virginia Tech, and the airplanes on 9/11 have in common? They occurred in firearm-free zones. Nice try on this presentation, but I observe this as a same deal, different package concept. It's not just the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution you're tangling with, but the Ninth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and Article 1, Section 2, which is called Basic Rights of the Florida Constitution as well. Well, and what's interesting, I did send this, their website, which is armedwithethics.org, and I got a reply from the Florida 10th Amendment Center, which they're good comrades of mine. And I enjoy what this gentleman said, who represents this great organization. Thanks for the tip. If they want to end illegal trafficking, maybe they'll join us in stopping ATF at the state line. You know what? I love it. He's right. What a great concept. So anyone that supports his organization, Arms with Ethics, you should send my podcast to them. All right? Because the truth of the matter is, hey, we may have something in common. I don't like the ATF because they are a tyrannical entity. And when they step over our state's rights and local, that is a no-no under the 10th Amendment. And Federalist Papers 46, written by James Madison, forewarned us on a scenario by the ATF. So I am digressing. And although how I see this too is, hey, let's see if they're really noble individuals are honoring their oath of office. Well, let's just start with the U.S. Constitution. Amendment 2 reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to secure of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, that's the one error. And about the whole thing about asking on records and what they're selling, who they're selling it to, who they're selling this to. It's like, let's go hit the 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The right of the people to be secured in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. How about we hit the 5th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution? No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So this looks like here the Miami-Dade County mayors think they're the grand jury. Well, that's too bad for you guys. Except in cases arise in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice or be put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be witness against himself, nor be deprived of liberty or property without due process of law, nor shall property be taken for public use without just compensation. I like when they say trafficker weapon sales. I like to ask, who's buying the firearms? Hey, you know what? To me, you guys act like attributes of Inspector Gadgets. You know what? You're not investigators. You're elected servants.